Hey guys, welcome to tonight's small group. I'm so glad that you guys made it. And tonight we're going to be looking at Colossians 2 and what that can teach us as we keep going in our Sunday morning sermon about resolving to go in a new direction. And so I want to tell you guys a story about when I was in 8th grade, because when I was in 8th grade, I did track and I thought I was pretty fast. I played baseball as well, I did a little bit of soccer, but all that combined, I thought I was pretty good at track. And with track, I was a good sort of long distance runner. I did the mile and the 2 mile, and was pretty good at those, but so was everyone in my school. We had a bunch of people. So one day, one of our teammates who ran the 200 meter, he got sick, and so he was going to miss the next day's event. So our coach was like, well, we need someone to run the 200. Does anyone want to try it tomorrow? And one of my friends was like, hey, you do pretty good at running. Why don't you try this? You could do it. You'll do good with it. So I rose my hand and I talked to the coach. I'm like, hey, I'll try it. I'll give it a shot. I've never done it before, but I'll give it a shot. And he was like, all right. I'm like, yeah, you can go for it. So one of the things that was different with running this sort of shorter distance as opposed to running the long distance was I knew I was going to need cleats. So I was able to borrow some cleats from a friend, some spikes for the track, and I was pumping myself up of, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do awesome with the 200. So the next day came, got on the bus, I'm pumping myself up. I got the big headphones, my Walkman on the bus. I'm ready to go. I'm going to run this 200. I'm going to rock it, and I'm going to win this race. Line up, it's me and the 7 other schools. The gun goes off, and I start sprinting with everything. And instantly, everyone's way past me. And it's not even close. I'm so far behind to where it's only 200 meters, but I'm probably already 100 meters behind after a handful of yards. So I wanted to just sort of dip off to the side. I was just so embarrassed, so let down of, I am not a good short distance runner. I could do 1,600 meters, 200 meters, not my cup of tea. And that was probably some bad advice that I received during my middle school years. And it wasn't that my friend was trying to intentionally hurt me. He really thought that I would do good with it. Sometimes bad advice, it's not bad in that it's malicious and it's trying to hurt us. It's just we don't know any better. And that's a little bit of what's going on in Colossae. Because the Colossians, the church there, they didn't really know any better. And see, the problem with both the church in Colossians and us today is that we sometimes believe ourselves too much. We trick ourselves into thinking that our great thoughts are actually great thoughts. That our best advice is the best advice. And see, the problem with that is that our thoughts can betray us. That sometimes we think we know so much, but our knowledge is so finite, doesn't know fully everything, that it lets us down. And as Paul teaches the Colossians in this letter, we'll see that the source of all knowledge, the source of truth is Jesus Christ, and that we need to not rely on our own thinking, but really trust in what God says. And so that's what's going on in this letter to the Colossians, is the church in Colossae was set up by someone who had heard about Jesus Christ from Paul and gone back to his hometown and sort of started telling everyone about it. And it was great. It's awesome. And Paul mentions that. He says, it's awesome to see your faith just sort of spread, because I've never been there. You've never had a sort of pastor come teach you these things. You guys just heard about it, accepted it, and you're going after it. But the problem with that is there wasn't a spiritual father. There was no one to sort of come in and say, this is how a Christian should live. This is what Jesus Christ says. This is how you interpret the Word of God. And so they were kind of like sheep without a shepherd, just wandering about. And people would start to come up with all these ideas of, oh, this is how a Christian should live. And then this is what a Christian should live. They were getting advice from a number of people. Some of it bad with malicious intent. Some of it just bad with not knowing any better. And so Paul writes this letter to them to say, hey, look, you're being deceived by a lot of these beliefs. Here is what you need to know. And what he says in this second chapter of the letter to Colossae is that Jesus Christ is the source of all truth. He's saying, hey, forget these man-made ideas. Forget what men are trying to teach you need to do in order to be saved. Focus on Jesus Christ. And so this letter sort of lays out what to believe and how to believe it. This letter sort of lays out how to know what is wisdom and what is sort of false ideas. Paul encourages us to know that all truth, we can know it's truth because of Jesus Christ. And that if it doesn't teach us more about Jesus Christ, and if it's not what Jesus Christ taught, it's not really truth. So my prayer for you guys tonight is that as you read this letter, as you read this chapter and discuss it, that you really just start to see that there's a difference between man-made ideas and God-made ideas. That one of the things that I like to know is that your theology must dictate your philosophy, not the other way around. And what that means is that how you view God and your view of who God says he is should dictate how you view the world operates. Because our world likes to flip that around and say, oh, this is how the world operates, so surely God must mean this when he says that. But no, as Paul lays out in Colossians, Jesus Christ is the source of all truth. That Jesus Christ is full of truth, and he gives that same fullness to us. That who we are in Jesus Christ, who he says we are, and who he says he is, that has to dictate everything else in our lives. So have fun reading this chapter, and have a great discussion. God bless.